Why doesn't Korea have a royal family? Korea, which is made up of the Republic of Korea, South Korea, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or North Korea, was once a nation of dynastic rule dating back to 2333 BCE. The history of Korea is far too long to cover in one video, but to summarize, it can be split into several dynasties that all ended with the annexation of the Korean peninsula in 1910 by the Empire of Japan. These eras with a ruling monarchy can be split into the Gojoseon, Three Kingdoms, Goryeo, Joseon, and the Empire of Korea. It was after the short-lived Empire of Korea that the monarchy was completely abolished and the Empire of Japan annexed Korea. The fate of the Korean monarchy is a sad one, with political and social ramifications that are still felt in the modern day. The question is, what happened to the monarchy? Why does it not exist even in a constitutional monarchy form as it does in many European nations or Japan? Does the Korean royal family still exist today? How do modern Koreans feel about the monarchy or the theoretical restoration of a constitutional monarchy a la the United Kingdom or Japan? Let's learn about why Korea doesn't have a royal family any longer. The early 20th century saw a huge shift in the way nations were run throughout the world. Feudal monarchies that stood for hundreds or thousands of years around the world fell en masse. Political upheavals destroyed the Qing dynasty of China, deposing the last Qing Emperor Puyi, and gave rise to the communist government. World War I saw the fall of many European monarchies, including the Russian Empire, with the murder of Tsar Nicholas II during the Bolshevik Revolution. The defeat of Germany in World War I saw the dissolution of the German Empire and the exile of Kaiser Wilhelm II. The Empire of Korea would be one of the monarchies that would fall during this time. Now, one of the most important aspects regarding the fall of the Korean monarchy would be the differentiation of the Kingdom of Joseon and the Empire of Korea. One might mistake one for the other, but they are in fact very different in almost every way. The Joseon dynasty is perhaps the most famous and most relevant to answer the question on why Korea lacks a monarchy today. It was founded in 1392 and was dissolved in 1897. Now, most of the famous kings still talked about today were from this era. King Taejo was the founder of Joseon. King Sejong is known for mass reform and the creation of the modern Korean alphabet. And King Gojong is known as the last Korean king before the end of the Joseon dynasty. The end of the Joseon dynasty has three major figures that should be focused on to understand the status of the royal family today. Those three figures are King Gojong of Joseon, Queen Myeongseong of Joseon, also known as Queen Min, and their son Sunjong of the Empire of Korea. These three were present for the annexation of Korea by Japan, the abolishment of the Kingdom of Joseon, the formation of the Korean Empire, and the formal abolishment of the Korean monarchy as a whole. As the last king of Joseon, King Gojong was plagued with dissatisfaction among the people. Many were starving and extremely vocal about the status of the upper class, such as the royal family and the yangban, or the civil servants and military class, and peasant revolution seemed to be on the brink of explosion. King Gojong tried his best to rectify the dissatisfaction with sweeping reforms and eliminating the slave class throughout his kingdom. He also maintained close political ties with the Qing dynasty of China, which would eventually cause great turmoil as relations with Japan would develop. Japan and China's issues with one another would eventually come to a head with the First Sino-Japanese War. Japan would win this conflict and significantly weaken both Qing China and their relationships with Joseon. Japan established a presence in Joseon, which would lead to extreme dissatisfaction among the people and the king himself. King Gojong would turn to Russia for help, which would lead to his exile in the Russian litigation in Seoul, where he was safe from the Japanese. In 1897, King Gojong established the Empire of Korea and appointed his son, Sunjong, as the crown prince of the Korean Empire. Years of assassination attempts, efforts to free Korea from Japanese influence, and sweeping reforms resulted to naught when he abdicated the throne in 1907, while being replaced by his son Sunjong by Japan. After his abdication, he attempted to flee to Russia but was unsuccessful. He later died in 1919 under mysterious circumstances, which would be a catalyst for the March 1st movement. Queen Myeongsong was the official wife of King Gojong and the final queen of Joseon. She's an extremely divisive figure in the annals of Korean history. She is known mainly for her brutal assassination by Japanese forces, but also for her push for the modernization of Joseon amongst sweeping changes throughout the world. Being an educated woman, rare for her time, she was also seen as far more politically active than her husband. Joseon operated under an isolationist policy, which began to have negative impacts as Japan modernized and pressured Joseon to open its ports for trade and allow modernization. Queen Myeongsong viewed the special trade and diplomatic privileges that the unequal Ganghwa Treaty gave to Japan as dangerous, which for a time created a near economic monopoly. This eventually was eased as Joseon opened up to modernization and economic ties with several Western nations. At one point, some contemporary figures stated their belief that she was even more powerful than the king himself. She spearheaded many economic reforms and treaties with foreign powers in an attempt to modernize Joseon. Amid political power struggles, Queen Myeongsong made an attempt to align herself with the Russian Empire. This would be the last thing she would do before her assassination. Japanese and pro-Japanese agents would make their way through the Royal Korean Palace, or Gyeongbokgung, late at night on October 8, 1895. They found the queen, assassinating her and many court officials to silence her influence. This created mass anti-Japanese sentiment in Joseon, but it would not stop the annexation of Korea in 1910. Emperor Sunjong, the crown prince of both the Kingdom of Joseon and the Empire of Korea, rose to power in 1907 after the deposition of his father, Emperor Gojong. He came to power at a time when encroaching Japanese influence was taking over more and more aspects of Korean life. The Japan-Korea Treaty of 1907 essentially allowed Japan to supervise and intervene in Korea's administrative and governmental affairs. These changes and corrupt pro-Japanese officials in the government allowed Korea to be annexed by Japan in 1910. After only 3 years, Sunjong had become powerless and the Empire of Korea was essentially abolished. He was sequestered to Changdeokgung Palace in Seoul, where he lived until his death in 1926. The Japanese occupation of Korea lasted all the way until 1945, with their defeat in World War II. With the establishment of a democratic government, many people at the time felt that the royal family and the higher echelons of society had sold out Korea to the Japanese, causing the years of suffering that had come from the occupation. The government made an effort to strip them of their land, finances, and titles so that a monarchist revival would not be possible. With this, many members of the royal family fled to other parts of the world, most notably the US. Years later, President Park Chung-hee would allow some members to return to Korea and even provided both financial support and housing in small corners of their old palaces. The Korean royal family lived in relative obscurity all around the world and did not return until much later, after the political situation in South Korea had stabilized. Joseon had followed the rule of male-only primogeniture. This meant that the eldest male in a line of direct succession would be followed. This is why, for the most part, the line of Korean royalty had followed the eldest son of a monarch to becoming king. As kings often took concubines, the status of the mother would also be taken into consideration when a new crown prince was born. As Sunjong's mother was Empress Myeongsong, the throne went to Sunjong upon the death of his father. At this time, Sunjong's youngest half-brother, Lee-eun, took the title of crown prince over his older half-brother, Lee-gang, because of a lack of public support and dissatisfaction by the king. While the monarchy had been abolished by the Japanese, the line of succession was still intact. At this point, there was still an undisputed heir in the House of Yi, according to tradition. But as years passed, this definitive line would splinter into 3 separate major heirs to the house. Which one is truly in line as successor in the House of Yi is still debated today. Lee-eun, the half-brother of the last Korean Emperor Sunjong, was already made crown prince as his father Gojong had abdicated the throne of the Korean Empire before his own death. In theory, Lee-eun would have ascended the throne after the death of Sunjong in 1926, but the Korean Empire had at this point been absorbed into the Japanese Empire through annexation. He was not allowed into Korea by the early presidential administrations and bounced between Japan and Korea. He was finally allowed back into Korea in 1963 by President Park Chung-hee and later died at Cheongdeokgung in 1970. Lee Gu, son of Lee Eun and grandson of King Gojong, was the next in line of a theoretical succession. After President Park Chung-hee allowed the royal family back into Korea, he bounced between Japan, Korea, and the United States. He was married to American Julia Mullock. Dispute with the line of succession starts here, as not only was she a foreigner, but Julia Mullock was not included in the Lee family registry, and she was also allegedly sterile, making her incapable of birthing an heir. The imperial family pressured for a divorce of the two, which happened in 1982. Nearing his death in 2005, the Jeonju-lee Royal Family Association, which was created by decree of Emperor Sunjong to carry on affairs of the Jeonju-lee family, stated that an adoption within the family was approved. Lee Gu was left without a male heir to carry on the imperial family. Thus, he decided to adopt a close blood relative and elected him as the official heir. Lee Gu had chosen his uncle Lee Kang's grandson, Lee Won, as the successor to the throne. In 2005, the Jeonju-lee Royal Family Association approved the succession, but Lee Gu died before the formal adoption procedures could be finished, according to South Korean law. The other lines of royal pretenders, namely Lee Seok and Lee Hae-won, greatly opposed Lee Won being the next in line for the throne. Regardless, Lee Won holds the title of Hereditary Prince Imperial at the yearly Jongmyo Jae, or Royal Family Ancestral Rite held every year at Jongmyo Shrine, which was typically done by the kings in the past. The other currently disputed line is that of Lee Seok. Lee Seok was born as the 10th son of Lee Gang, who was the 5th son of King Gojong. He is an advocate of creating a constitutional monarchy to exist alongside the democratic government of South Korea. He claims that upon the death of Lee Gu, the last recognized heir, that he was to take his cousin's titles. According to him, he stated that Lee Bangja, mother of Lee Gu, actually named him the rightful heir. It remains controversial because this breaks male primogeniture and also was not stated in the will of Crown Prince Lee Eun. As Lee Seok does not have any male heirs of his own, he formally adopted a Korean-American entrepreneur and alleged distant Lee relative, Andrew Lee, as his heir. No one knows what Andrew Lee's true relation is with the royal family, but in the theoretical line of Lee Seok, he is the next heir. Lee Hae-won is the granddaughter of King Gojong and was the third pretender in the line of succession for the House of Lee. Upon the death of her cousin Lee Gu, she learned that he had adopted Lee Won as the next heir. She opposed this, and without the support or approval of the rest of the royal family, she announced herself as the Empress of Korea on September 29, 2006. This went unrecognized by the House of Lee, and she eventually passed at the age of 100 in 2020. The status of the royal family of Korea is one of the many points of contention to people in Korea. It is important to point out that South Korea is a presidential republic, with the formal royal family holding absolutely no power. It was forged through revolution and war, coming out of colonization from Japan and becoming the powerful nation it is today. Many people view the late Joseon dynasty and the Korean Empire as the reason why Japan was able to annex Korea in the first place. Weak government, terrible economics, and political decisions and treason are all factors in why the Joseon dynasty fell. To some, that feeling lingers over a century later. Others point out the importance of remembering and honoring the rich and long history of Korea, the bad and the good. The general public is against the restoration of the monarchy, even if it is a constitutional one. The most glaring is the parts of the Korean constitution which explicitly prohibits that exact scenario. The feelings that the royal family are traitors who sold out Korea to Japan and other countries to save themselves is another huge point of contention. Perhaps the largest is the public's idea that it is entirely unnecessary. Korea has grown well without them, and having them gives no evident benefits. The price of maintaining a constitutional monarchy is expensive, and Korean taxpayers have little to no interest in footing the bill for the lavish lifestyle a monarchy has. The Joseon dynasty will remain a chapter in Korea's long history. While it ended in a bloody and tragic fashion, it brought about many things that had huge impact in the Korea of today. Technology, art, and most importantly, Hangul, the Korean writing system. These things highlight the impact Joseon had on modern Korea and will remain so forever.